Alright everyone, link in the description. Panodrama, Tommy Robinson striking back at sort of the British establishment that tried to, defame him repeatedly and grind down everyone in the UK that has political views that are, maybe to the right of Joseph Stalin or something like that. Tommy Robinson, one of the most maligned figures within the political world today. Again, legit, at this point, legitimately accredited journalist for a fairly large-ish, at least mollusk media firm. I wouldn't call it alt media, but it's, close enough to it. Semi-independent, corporate model, but, not controlled by a multinational parent firm. It's not CNN. It's not the BBC. Showing how the BBC that is supposed, the BBC over in the UK, for people here in the US, it's sort of similar to C-SPAN. It is supposed to be objective and unbiased. I think NPR is supposed to be, but obviously that, falls through on a daily basis. Like C-SPAN is just like raw coverage mostly, so it sort of conforms to being non-biased. It's not very exciting sometimes. I think they do, isn't it C-SPAN 3 has, like, the House of Commons in the UK? It's like, okay, now for British people, you need to watch that. Like, you should be watching the American take on your politics if you want the actual unbiased coverage. The BBC is supposed to be non-biased. But they work directly with groups that have a clear political motivation. This hope not hate thing, for instance, that he speaks of. Defaming him, defaming others, aligning with people that are maybe violent in some cases, Antifa and so forth. Clearly working in the most direct sense with the BBC and spreading misinformation. And Robinson's like, well, now it's my turn to talk. And I think they did this right out on the plaza in front of the BBC building. It looked like there were quite a few thousands of people that showed up to watch this, and they'd had this big-ass screen. Again, link in the description, you can watch the whole thing. Big-ass screen there, it's like, 100 feet wide or something, and you could see people were taking pictures of the people in the BBC building looking out and actually watching. It's like they probably had enough volume so they could hear it too, which is funny. So the BBC got a little bit of a dose of counter-propaganda that day. The UK, you'll remember, has a censored press. It's not like here where, like, I can make a blog article, I can analyze things, nobody can stop me, except for Silicon Valley thugs, maybe. And, CNN can analyze it, Fox can analyze it. Breitbart can analyze it from a dedicated so-called right-wing perspective, or maybe Glenn Beck can weigh in, and then you can get Maddow's take, or Marr, or any of these people on the left. All these people. It's funny, Michael Moore, which is funny, actually, he was up on stage there with, like, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, and it was like, oh, they've got, like, 16 houses, net worth of $65 million, they're talking about stopping poverty. And I thought that was really funny. I'll give Moore credit, he was actually raised in the working class. I think Sanders was raised in the dedicated middle class. He had some degree of privilege. He could be unemployed for years without a problem. Elizabeth Warren, I think, was born with a silver spoon in her mouth. So, oddly enough, Michael Moore gets the most credit on that one. Sad. He's also the richest, I believe, at this point. Dude, have you seen his fucking house? How many bedrooms does he have? He has to have a separate bedroom just for his lard rolls. No, Tommy Robinson, I think, is one of the most mistreated people ever. He got thrown in jail for a non-crime, something that he didn't do. And as soon as he did, now he's out of the picture at that point. He's in a jail cell, so he can't really defend himself. I remember, like, for several days thereafter, when he's being detained and stuff, people went completely nuts. It was basically, there were plenty of people who supported him and thought, well, this is either, it's unacceptably draconian, number one, or at the very least, he shouldn't be in prison at all. He's just, like, recording outside of a trial venue. But there were so many people who were like, well, he violated his parole, he's an evil Nazi, he's a horrible person, he founded this group like 10 years ago, so, he's a bad person. They attacked everything that he had online. They tried to wipe him off the face of the earth, and they failed largely. I think he's still allowed on YouTube, if I remember correctly. It could be, I know he's got a Facebook page. And they've tried to take that down. They had a hit piece about him less than a week ago about, well, he shared out this, it was the rape crisis pamphlet there, and it was basically racist. And he pointed this out, chuckled about it, and then they were trying to attack his web presence because of the fact that some of his fans got rowdy. And I'm like, again, company you keep. That's the next stage of censorship online will be you will be attacked for the company you keep, not for your own views, not for your own content, not for your own foibles or your own presence, but because of commenters, because of people that you've spoken with, you gave an interview to them or something. I talked with Chris Whalen. I've platformed him now. If he goes off and does something crazy, they're going to come after me for that because I am my brother's keeper. So when Chris Whalen goes postal and goes to H&R Block with a hammer and starts smashing windows, I'm guilty of vandalism or something. But I don't think he'd do that. But it'd be funny if he did. He dons himself up in like medieval armor, carries it, and goes in with a mace or something. Probably can't even have medieval armor in the UK. Used to be everyone had to carry a sword at all times if they were an able-bodied male. Now, if you did that, you'd probably get thrown in jail for 20 years. You get thrown in jail way longer than if you operate like a child trafficking cartel, apparently. That's like, hey, we let you out with a slap on the wrist. Yes, you can continue being a school teacher in the UK. It's really weird how they work over there. But I mean, for days he was locked up, not allowed to defend himself. And it was a kangaroo court sort of proceeding. He didn't even get a chance to put on a proper defense. He was given basically a public, defender that did nothing, and then he gets thrown in. They let him out. They still haven't recharged him because he did nothing fucking wrong. He didn't break the law. They just wanted him off the street. I think they wanted to intimidate the dude. I think they wanted to intimidate him. They wanted to say basically, look, we can have you locked up. We're going to put you in solitary in a place with a lot of people who probably have political views that are adverse to yours. We're going to allow them to walk by and throw their shit at you. We're going to allow them to intimidate your family. We're going to allow them to intimidate your friends, to try to deperson you off of the entire internet, to destroy your bank account, your ability to get credit. You won't get a home. You won't get a car. You will be a leper among society. You'll be like the blind seer or something like that. You'll be wandering around in society like an outcast. Like you have the mark of Cain on you. No one will want to associate with you for fear of what we will do to them if they try to help you. Ha ha ha. It's total tyranny. Don't people fucking understand how tyrannical this is? No, he should be able to say exactly what he wants. And they're trying to export that sort of nonsense over here. Absolutely. Look at what Silicon Valley's doing. What's the difference between you getting completely depersoned and you can't even defend yourself when defamed and stuff? Like, you get well known. And you get to person, like the MSM, first they cut you off from your audience, from the whole world, so that like you got no friends, you got no backup, nobody can help you. Then they write a bunch of defamatory hit pieces. You can't even raise money to defend yourself against their slander. You can't raise money, you can't use a platform to discredit their claims, so now all of a sudden, so you're broke, and under threat possibly by political extremists on the far left, and you can't even defend yourself. You can't even rally people who might agree with you to try to help you. No legal defense. You can't do anything. What's the difference between if this is done by half a dozen corporations here, in a privatized sense, or over there it's done by the government of the United Kingdom? Or in anywhere else, in any other authoritarian culture where they've got statism. But authoritarianism does not have to come from a state. Over here it doesn't come mainly from the state. Uncle Sam's not banning you off of YouTube. Uncle Sam's not banning you off of Facebook. No, it's Silicon Valley doing it. They just happen to be in league with Uncle Sam. They got these vertical monopolies and trusts that they've set up, and they control 90% of all human communication in the country, as well as the banking system. But that's okay, because they're private corporations. It's okay if the fascism comes from a corporation. It's not if it comes from the state. That's wrong. Except over there, that's okay because, Tommy Robinson's like a bad person and stuff. That's funny. Most of what he says is just like, random conservatism, basically. Oh my God. He believes in populism. So fucking what? Dude, it's funny when people try to call Bernie Sanders a populist. Look, Marine Le Pen is a populist. She's far left. Yeah, it can actually happen. Supposedly he's an evil, xenophobic bigot. Why? Because he criticizes an organized religion? I fail to see the problem there. I seem to remember people on the left doing like the Draw Muhammad Day thing 10 years ago. Now all of a sudden, oh no, you can't do that. It's offensive and not PC anymore because you might bother Elon Omar or somebody. Who fucking cares about these people? Bunch of brain-dead stooges is what they are. So yeah, I had a good time watching this. You should check it out. It's gotten to the point where if you say, well, look, Tommy Robinson, he'd probably get kicked off half the internet for doing that, so totally ridiculous. That's about all. Peace out.